We decided to compose this letter to send to the IRS and say, we need to look at the foreign donations, review the status, look at the structure. It's about fairness. It's about accountability.
So Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn telling Greta, calling on the IRS Commissioner John Koskinen to review the tax-exempt status of the Clinton Foundation after finding out it took foreign donations even while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. This is the Select Committee on Benghazi. Sends a letter also to the State Department demanding it hand over emails. South Carolina Congressman Trey Gowdy, chair of that Select Committee on Benghazi. He's my guest now. Sir, good morning to you and welcome back to America's News. Let me get to Benghazi in a moment. I know you've got a lot of issues with the lack of communication on that. But first, on the Clinton Foundation, would you support some sort of investigation on behalf of the IRS to try and figure out what was happening inside the foundation?
Well, Bill, that is way outside the jurisdiction of our committee. And as you know, I was a lawyer, but I was a very mediocre lawyer who has no background in tax law at all. I watch the news like everyone else. I understand their questions, but in terms of what our committee is doing, it doesn't have anything to do with IRS or charitable foundations.
What is your hunch as you read these news reports? Was everything on board? Was everything on the table?
Well, I try to deal in evidence and facts as opposed to hunches. I think that there are certainly areas that warrant further inquiry, but that inquiry needs to be done by folks who are really knowledgeable in tax law and charitable donations, and that excludes me. So okay. I certainly get why people have questions.
Understand. And we'll get back with Marsha Blackburn on that a bit later. Now on Benghazi, our Fox polling found this. How much do you blame Hillary Clinton for Benghazi? A great deal, or some say 55%. Now you are a bit bothered by the fact that you've been waiting 6 months with zero communication from the State Department on your request. Explain what's happening there.
Well, Bill, it took them 2 years, as you remember, to comply with a request for ARB documents, and we asked them in November for the emails related to some of Secretary Clinton's top counselors and advisors. That was November of 2014. We heard crickets, so we sent a subpoena in March. We've not gotten one single solitary email responsive to that request. I know Secretary Clinton is anxious to come before the committee, and frankly, we would like to accommodate her. But she's also been insistent that she's only going to come one time. So she's only going to come one time. That one time has to be really productive and really constructive, which means we need the emails that we asked for over half a year ago.
Well, a couple things on that. Will you accept one appearance by Hillary Clinton or not?
Well, I mean, if that one appearance is after we have the documents needed to make that appearance constructive, and if she does, as her lawyer indicated she would, which is answer all the committee's questions, whether that's done over the course of 2 days or 1 day really doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that that conversation be as thorough and complete and constructive as possible. My members have lots of questions. So part of those questions involve her circle of advisors and what was happening in Libya and Benghazi before the attacks, and of course during the attacks, and certainly the talking points afterward. So whether she comes once or twice or 3 times is less important to me than the time she does come be fully productive.
So it sounds like you're waiting to hear the first appearance and then you'll make a decision as to whether or not you would want her back. That's what it sounds like you're saying there.
Well, as you know, because you've watched other witnesses being examined, sometimes additional questions come up. Sometimes documents come up after an appearance. What I'm trying to avoid is bringing her prematurely. And keep in mind, Bill, the Democrats wanted me to bring her last November, which was before we even knew about the email arrangement she had with herself. So if she's insistent on coming once, then certainly she would understand that that once has to be really productive and constructive, which means we need the emails from the people that were advising you while you were Secretary of State.
Yeah, you mentioned this no 6 months of contact. Are they stonewalling?
Stonewalling would be an understatement. It is a conscious decision not to cooperate with a legitimate congressional inquiry. And again, my tools are somewhat limited. We can have public hearings. We can put public pressure on them. But we've already tried a subpoena. And I don't want the drama of a floor fight over being held in contempt of Congress. That is a distraction. Your viewers don't want that. I want the documents. I don't want the drama. I want the documents. And they've had half a year, and I've not gotten a single solitary scrap of paper.
Another Fox poll: should Congress continue to investigate until someone is held accountable? 56% say no, yes, rather 38% say no. Does this mean now, with this delay, that your report will not go public until next year? Which would be, sir, as you know, in the middle of a presidential campaign.
I hope not. My goal, for myriad reasons, is to have our work concluded in 2015, but I think you can tell from this conversation there are certain factors outside my control. What I'm not going to do is produce a report that is incomplete or only has half the facts. So as soon as the State Department decides to give us what everyone conceives is a legitimate request, I mean, we're not asking for emails about Bolivia or Paraguay. We're asking for emails about Libya and Benghazi. And you've had 6 months, and you have 70,000 employees and a budget of God knows what, and you can't produce a single solitary email? So the President and John Kerry can do a lot to help me get this thing done in 2015, but I'm not going to rush it, and I'm not going to do a job that is not reflective of the sacrifice of those 4 Americans.
Trey Gowdy, Republican out of South Carolina. Sir, thank you for your time, for coming back here
Yes,
today.
sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it.